On the morning of the 26th of February, 1959, a search party climbed a frozen slope in the northern Ural Mountains and found a tent. It was half buried in snow, still standing, and it had been cut open, not from the outside, but from the inside, slashed apart with a knife by the people trapped within. Whatever was in that tent that night, 9 experienced hikers decided that facing a Siberian blizzard, in the dark, in bare feet, in temperatures near 30 below, was safer than staying one more second inside. Every one of them was found dead. Some had fractured skulls. Some had crushed ribs. The kind of injury you'd expect from a car crash. One was missing her tongue. And to this day, more than 60 years later, no one can tell you for certain what they were running from. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident. They were not amateurs. That's the first thing you have to understand. In late January 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a skiing expedition. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a talented, careful outdoorsman. The rest were his friends, engineers, athletes, veterans of the trail. Their goal was a mountain called Otordhin, deep in the frozen wilderness. This was a Category 3 route, the highest difficulty rating the Soviet system had. These were exactly the kind of people you'd want with you when things went wrong. There was a 10th member too, a young man named Yuri Yudin. Early in the trip, joint pain forced him to turn back and go home. He hugged his friends goodbye and watched them ski off into the white. He would be the only one to come back alive. We know a strange amount about their final days because they left it behind. Diaries, photographs, a roll of film, still in a camera, waiting in the snow. The photos show smiling faces, snowball fights, friends building a camp, ordinary young people doing something they loved. On the 1st of February, they began climbing the slope of a mountain the local Mansi people called Kholat Shah. Translated, the name means Dead Mountain. A snowstorm rolled in. Visibility collapsed somewhere on that exposed slope. Instead of retreating down to the shelter of the tree line, Dyatlov made the decision to pitch the tent right there, on the open mountainside. We don't know why. It's one of the small choices that night that would never be explained. They ate. They settled in. One of the last photographs ever taken shows the group digging out a spot for the tent in the fading light. And then something happened. When the group missed their agreed return date, families raised the alarm. A search began, and on the 26th of February, they found the tent on that slope, collapsed, empty, sliced open from within. Everything the hikers needed to survive was still inside. Their boots, their coats, their supplies, neatly left behind. Leading away from the tent, down toward the forest, were footprints in the snow. And here's what stops you cold. The prints were made by people in socks, some barefoot, no shoes, walking, not running in panic, but walking in an oddly ordered line out into a killing cold. At the edge of the forest, beneath a tall cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, near the remains of a small fire. Branches on the tree were broken high up, as if someone had desperately climbed it, to look back at the tent, or to watch for something coming. 3 more were found between the cedar and the camp, including Dyatlov himself, frozen in poses that suggested they'd been trying to crawl back to the tent when the cold took them. That was 5. It would be 2 more months before they found the rest. In May, as the snow melted, Searchers found the final 4 buried in a ravine in a stream bed under nearly 4 meters of snow, and these bodies were different. 3 of them had catastrophic internal injuries. 1 had a fractured skull, 2 had massive chest fractures, ribs broken with such force that doctors compared it to the impact of a car accident, and yet there were almost no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises to match. Whatever crushed them had done so without breaking the skin. One of the hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. Some of their clothing carried traces of radioactivity, and the color of their skin was strange, described in reports as an unnatural orange-brown. The official Soviet investigation in 1959 closed the case with a single haunting phrase. The hikers, it said, had died as the result of a compelling natural force, one they could not name. The files were sent to a secret archive, and the case went quiet for decades. So what happened on Dead Mountain? For 60 years, people have tried to answer that, and the theories run from the scientific to the strange. The leading explanation is an avalanche, specifically a slab of hard snow that broke loose above the tent, struck the sleeping hikers, and drove them to cut their way out and flee downhill. In 2021, a study published in the journal Nature used modeling, some of it built for a Disney film, to show that a small, delayed slab avalanche on that exact slope was actually possible. It could even explain the crushing car crash injuries. But critics point out the problems. There was no obvious avalanche debris when the tent was found. The slope's angle was gentle. And why the missing tongue? Why the radiation? Others blame the wind. On that shape of mountain, katabatic winds can generate infrasound, sound below human hearing, known to trigger waves of dread, panic, and unease. Under that invisible pressure, the theory goes, the group fled the tent in blind terror. Then there are the darker theories. Soviet military testing, parachute mines which detonate in the air, would explain the internal injuries with no external wounds, the radiation, and the strange orange lights in the sky that other witnesses described that same night, and the injuries themselves. The missing tongue and eyes are grim, but likely explainable. The body was face down in a stream for months, and soft tissue decays first. The socks and bare feet, the discarded clothing, that may be paradoxical undressing, a real and eerie effect of the final stage of hypothermia, where a freezing person feels a sudden false rush of heat and tears off their clothes. Each theory answers some of the questions. None of them answers all. Here is what we know for certain. 9 skilled, careful people, deep in the wilderness they loved, did something that makes no rational sense. In the dead of night, they tore open their only shelter and walked out into the dark, leaving behind everything that could have saved them. Whatever they saw or heard or felt in that tent, it frightened them more than the mountain itself, and the mountain kept it secret. The locals had a name for that place long before any of this happened. They called it Dead Mountain. After February 1959, the pass just below it was given a new name, the name of the young man who led his friends up that slope and never came back down. Today we call it Dyatlov Pass. So, what do you think happened up there? Avalanche? Infrasound? Something they never wrote down? Tell me your theory in the comments. I read them all. And if this is the kind of story that keeps you up at night, subscribe and stay with me, because there are so many more of these. This is Storytime with Finnley. Sleep well.